When you walk through the tropical rainforest, you will notice that it's relatively hard to find flowers. Some tropical jungles in different parts of the world have fairly good sized flowers because of the type of pollinators they have in that region. But in the Central American tropics, we have relatively small flowers with some exceptions. The interesting thing of being in the woods is definitely uh, to be able to find flowers. It's just a joy. Look at these tiny little ones right here. We have flowers of multiple colors in tropical forests. Some come in yellow, green, white, pink, um, red, orange, you name it. Each and every pollinator will be attracted not only to scent but also to colors. Insects, bats, as well as hummingbirds will be important pollinators in the rainforest. If you if we go beyond the majority of flowers though, because you're familiar with this, usually occur in right on the edges of the branches of the plants and trees for the most part. But we have something quite cool happening. Look at this. Out of the main tree trunk of this plant, which is a member of the cocoa family, as in chocolate, we are looking at a wild cacao, or if you want to look at it that way, wild chocolate. This interesting phenomenon, look at this is unique, is called cauliflory. Cauliflory is a word used to describe flowers being produced out of the trunk of a tree. And this phenomenon only happens in the tropics. These flowers, which are small and delicate, usually very pale yellow with a little tinge of red, are mainly pollinated by flies, pretty much like real chocolate, like real cacao. This tree is a former member of the Sterculiaceae family, and now has been included in the Malvaceae family, the family of hibiscus. This is something very unusual. And when one visits a tropical rainforest, usually you run into unusual things and experiences. These moving leaves you see in the trunk of the tree are not really moving leaves, but rather leafcutter ants. Perhaps you've heard about them or seen them yourselves. Among the most amazing of any kind of insects you can find in tropical rainforest. And now that we're talking about leafcutter ants and leaves, let me just show you a few tropical leaves right here to see how beautiful tropical leaves are. For the most part, longer than leaves you can find in North American forests. And interestingly built, soft on the edges. Very few tropical leaves are serrated. And of course, these are long leaves with drip tips. Remember that in heavy rain areas like where we are, where we have on the average more than 200 inches of rainfall per year, leaves have to have a waxy coating and drip tips to be able to get rid of the excess of water. These tiny things you see growing on the surface of the leaf, lichens, mosses, they might be bacteria. You got to really have a microscope to see what's in there. It's called epiphytic organisms. These epiphytic organisms are growing on the surface of the leaf and in many cases aiding with the uptake of nutrients. Look at this other one. This is also obvious right here. Leaves, despite the fact that these forests are pretty evergreen, they stay green all year round. On a regular basis, leaves don't stay in the tree for too long because they lose their photosynthesis capacity. As they get old and as they get weathered by different circumstances. And of course, the tree just gets rid of the leaf just by cutting the water supply to it, and then the leaf will fall to the ground. When that happens, of course, the dead leaf will just simply become detritus on the ground and simply join the nutrient cycling processes of the rainforest. On the average, I would say the tropical rainforest leaves will stay attached to the plant for approximately 8 months, but some up to about a year, except in highland forests, where of course leaves stay there for longer periods of time and becoming pretty evergreen forests. We hear in the background the bellbird, quite iconic. Is a pre-montane inhabitant and cloud forest inhabitant, and one of the considered one of the endangered species of the world. When you walk through the tropical rainforest, sometimes you find fruit on the ground. Most of these fruit could vary in size. Some are small, some are medium size, and a few could be large. An indication of the presence of large size animals is the presence of large size fruit. When you walk through the woods and you don't see substantial size fruit, is because the presence of large size animals is not existent. Small size fruit usually associates to animals like monkeys, rodents. Rodents are particularly well represented in the tropics. Peccaries, which is a type of pig, pacas and agoutis, which are members of the rodent family. These are caviomorph rodents, as well as quadrimundis, members of the procyonid family, somehow related to raccoons. All these creatures, which are kind of like the charismatic animals we all want to see when we walk through the rainforest, um, disperse seeds. Bats, of course, which accounts for 50% of the total amount of the mammal population that exists in tropical rainforest, is there but only can be seen at night. Bats, of course, need rainforest in good ecological conditions, meaning that the forest has to be practically untouched to be able to efficiently ecolocate. It's been proved that areas of major disturbances may have effects on bat ecolocation. So the more pristine the forest, the healthier the population of bats. So bats produce definitely or play a major role in the pollination and dispersation of fruit. Birds too play a very important role in the dispersation of fruit. In the case of the bellbird, the one you hear calling, this one is a major disperser of wild avocados, which are present in these elevations all throughout the New World tropics. So, approximately 15 genera of, of, of mammals became extinct approximately 10,000 years ago. When that happened, of course, many trees that were intimately associated with these animals start finding big troubles in terms of being dispersed to new regions. When cattle, hundreds of years after, or thousands of years after, when cattle and horses were introduced to the tropics by Europeans, cattle and horses took the role the already extinct animals were playing in the past and became major dispersers of these seeds. And that's why we still find some trees with good size seeds and fruits, which are mostly taken by tapirs, which are much larger rainforest creatures, as well as horses and cattle in some areas. Palms occur worldwide and are among the most diverse of tropical plants. All palms are members of a family called Palmae and are monocots, sharing characteristics with plants like grasses, arums, lilies, and orchids. There are approximately 1,500 species of palms in the world. Palms are widely used by indigenous tribes, not only in Costa Rica, but as well as other parts of the world, to thatch roofs for houses, to make ropes, strings, hunting bows, fishing lines, hooks, utensils, even musical instruments. But also, palms can produce different sources of food in the form of their fruit, like what you see right here in this Camadoria palm, right? When they ripen, they become purple and they're sweet. Camadorias are also known for some medicinal properties. Look at the beauty of the leaf structure of this Camadoria. So they produce also food, construction material, as we were saying before, and some. Well, this one is used as for medicinal purposes, and of course this one right here, which is a real beauty. It will grow tall, approximately 15 feet to 20 feet, with huge fronds. Is also used for decoration as an ornamental plant and to extract heart of palm from the main shaft, which is pretty much like the trunk of it. When canopy fruit dispersers move through the treetops, and we're talking about birds and monkeys and perhaps some bats, they leave their droppings in the canopy. These seeds will become fertile at some point, many of them, and then they will start growing from a tiny little plant will start growing from the top of the tree to the bottom. When the little plant starts at the very top of the tree, will start as an epiphyte, but as it makes progression to the ground, look at this, it will start making a little trunk and a very interestingly developed root system that with time and with the final anchorage of these roots to the ground, the plant will then be called hemiepiphyte. Hemiepiphytes are very well represented by one group that is quite characteristic in the tropics and that perhaps you've heard of, called strangler figs. So strangler fig will start its life in the top, spread to the bottom, anchored its roots to the ground, and then start growing. After a number of years, the strangler fig will thicken out and will start producing these roots of the main trunk, like over here, like this one right here, which will become thicker and thicker, and it will make a progression of those tiny little roots going off the main trunk until it starts surrounding the host. The host will be stranglered, and of course the crown of the host will be completely covered by the crown of the strangler fig until finally the host will die and the strangler will remain. One of the fine phenomenons of the forest is definitely the one that I just described. And interestingly, what happens to the strangler fig is that it becomes one of the most productive trees in the tropical forest, yielding fruit pretty much on the constant basis, once every 2 months on the average for most species, and of course becoming a fundamental food source for a lot of creatures in the forest. There are probably 40 species of strangler figs, of an overall total of above 800 around the world. So Costa Rica has got a pretty good number of species of strangler figs, many of which are distributed in different ecoregions of the country. Some, perhaps the largest strangler fig I've ever seen, um, is, is in rain lowland forest in Costa Rica. That's where I've seen the biggest ones, many of which become up to about 120 feet tall. Tropical rainforests are definitely wonderful ecosystems. There are hundreds of little interactions that make each and every step in a tropical rainforest fascinating. We we just have a brief overview of what's happening in a rainforest like this. And now, in this series of videos, we're going to take you deeper in the subject to understand how the rainforest functions. Maybe many of you have wondered how or why rainforests are so diverse, why there's so much life compressed in, in a very small area. Now we are going to unravel um, the question of um, tropical biodiversity, and it will be the next topic. So stay with us.